All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Mainly Hoops podcast. We're covering the Big Ten still. We've got the Purdue Boilermakers. We're seeing how their transfers benefit the team, maybe not benefit the team, but they didn't make a lot of moves. We'll start out with Cody and hear his thoughts on the couple moves they did make in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Painter, not really the guy that makes a ton of moves in the offseason. He typically makes that, adds that one piece that he feels like is missing from the prior season. And a guy that sticks in my head is a guy like Lance Jones that they added. Was that 2 years ago? Or was that last year? Wow, 2 years ago. Yeah. He was there 2 years ago, and he was like kind of felt like the missing piece for Purdue, just adding like that, perimeter punch, the shooting ability along with the on-ball defense. And, they did that again. They needed to add another rim protector and rebounder and, kind of a post hub in Oscar Kluff, who, averaged 17 and a half points per game, 12 rebounds. Obviously, he's one of the best bigs that there was in the portal. He's probably top 5 to 7 portal bigs, and he's really going to help Matt Painter get back to his style of play on both ends of the floor. This was an offense that was kind of predicated off of, the Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn pick and roll, and a little bit of Kaufman-Renn in the post. And that's another thing that's going to be interesting to see is how like Kaufman-Renn and Kluff work out together. But Kluff is going to add to, get them back to their rebounding ability that makes them so great and gives them such a high floor. They're always like top 25 in offensive rebounding rate and defensive rebound rate. Got away from that a little bit last year just because Kaufman-Renn at the 5 isn't all that great of an offensive rebounder. He does a lot of things very well, but I wouldn't say offensive rebounding or like rim protection are really two things that he does all that well. And it's all Oscar Kluff coming in is also going to help Matt Painter on the defensive end, play more of their drop coverage based defense. They had to kind of completely switch what they did from a defensive standpoint with Kaufman-Renn at the 5. They had to play almost a no middle defense that, kind of conceded a lot of open threes. But I mean, the defense made strides over the course of the year, but I didn't think Matt Painter was all that comfortable playing that style. So I do think Kluff is going to bring a major rim presence on both ends of the floor, and he's going to help Purdue ultimately be a preseason top 5 team, maybe even the number 1 team. I've seen a lot of buzz on that. So yeah, this team's going to be right in the thick of it again because of this addition.
Marcus, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to what Matt Painter has seemed to like is that like double big. That's just kind of been his way of going about it. Now offensively, like the floor spacing that's going to come with it, a little bit of a question mark with Kluff and Kaufman-Renn neither really being able to shoot it. But they did go out and get Liam Murphy. We'll see what kind of role he plays, but for anyone that's looked at his numbers, he took 318 shots last year. 246 of them were from 3. 77% of his shots were from behind the arc, and shot 42% in doing so, averaged 13 points a game. So, adding a guy that can clearly knock it down at a pretty high clip. Now it's going to be different at this level in the Big Ten. He's probably not going to get the same level or same quality of looks. But then again, he is playing with the best point guard in the country in Braden Smith. So if anyone can do it and get him open shots, it's probably Braden Smith. So I think, as Cody said, Matt Painter doesn't really do a ton in the portal. Made one big move here, getting Kluff, added some shooting, and hopefully, that's enough to get them back, to the top of the country, which, it looks like that's where they're going to start the year at least.
Yeah, what can we expect from this team? Do you guys both think that they're a top 5 team in the nation? Cody, what do you think?
I think they have to be, just because they have the best point guard in the country and they kind of get back to their style of play that they prefer on both ends of the floor. One thing I am kind of concerned about is how Kaufman-Renn and Kluff fit together defensively, mostly just because I'm pretty low on Trey Kaufman-Renn as a defender. I mean, playing the 5, he's not a good rim protector, and he's not really great on the glass. I don't think 15% defensive rebound rate at the 4 isn't all that bad, but when he was playing the 5, it did kind of hinder what this defense could do over the course of an entire season. So having Kluff by his side, being more that rebound presence on both ends of the floor is gonna work out. But I am a little concerned about how Trey Kaufman-Renn's going to guard in space against like perimeter oriented four men, and in this style, like he's going to have to defend in space a little bit more. So, and we've never really seen Kaufman-Renn play major minutes at the four. Like when he played next to Edey, he wasn't really. How many minutes a game was he getting? It wasn't all that many. He only played like 40% of minutes at Purdue that season. So I am a little interested to see how that's going to work out. But besides that, I mean, this is arguably going to be the best offense in the country just because of the rim dominance and the shooting that they have with Smith, CJ Cox, and Fletcher Lawyer, who are going to get a bulk of the minutes here, plus the guys they have off the bench. Like you mentioned, Liam Murphy is going to be a floor spacer. Not really sure how much time he's going to get with this team just because their backcourt is pretty well set at this point in time. And Jakari Harris maybe making a year two leap as a shooter will kind of limit Murphy's minutes. But yeah, I expect this offense to easily be a top 5 offense in the country with some small defensive concerns from like a ceiling perspective. I think the defensive rebounding ability is going to make them a fine defense, but there are some deficiencies when it comes to guarding in space.
Marcus, what are your expectations of the Boilermakers, and are there any concerns for you?
I mean, I think on the offensive end, like I already alluded to, maybe the floor spacing can be a concern when they do play both bigs. But granted, they'll have 3 guards in most of the time that can all really shoot it. So that should really help their post up game, and it's going to force defenses to have to make a choice, right? I mean, they're either going to have to help down because Kluff or Kaufman-Renn are getting whatever they want at the rim, and that's going to leave open shooters for threes, or they're going to have to sell out and leave those guys on an island in the post one-on-one. So I do think that's going to make them a tough guard, but that would be, I guess, like my only real concern on that end. But I think there are a lot of avenues for Matt Painter to kind of combat that. Defensively, we'll see, as Cody said, how Kluff and Kaufman-Renn kind of play together. But I think in this conference, they're going to be, the top of the conference, and like they typically are. And, they'll be much more of a threat, I think, to go on a deep run in the tournament this year than last. I mean, last year, nobody really bought it, right? I mean, they were a pretty popular upset pick in the first round, and that didn't happen. And, I wouldn't be shocked, though, to see them this year go on a pretty good run and flirt around with like a Final Four run.
Yeah, definitely a good season to come for Purdue. Any final thoughts from you guys? Maybe a ceiling and a floor that we could see from the Boilermakers this season.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say before that is, like, I do think Kluff and Kaufman-Renn can offset their lack of shooting with their passing ability and their ability to operate from the top of the key or even in short roll. I think they're both pretty good as short roll creators, and they can pass out of that situation. They can honestly put the ball on the deck and score with their plus footwork. So I do think there are avenues for those two to play pretty much all the minutes together without the spacing being too much of an issue. But I would say, I mean, the floor is pretty high with this group. I'd say the floor is probably a 5 or 6 seed. Like, the defensive concerns, I guess, could spiral a little bit out of control if Kaufman-Renn is unable to improve there. I mean, but they also, I mean, one guy I'm really high on is Daniel Jacobson, being able to come off the bench as a rim protector. I think he's going to be great. He's coming off the broken leg, so we'll see how he is in his second year. But I was really impressed with what I saw from him in year one. But I mean, the ceiling is a Final Four or even a national championship with this team. I mean, I do think they're a top 5 team right now. I'm kind of rooting for Matt Painter to get over the hump. I think he gets a little bit too much hate for not winning a title. He finally got the monkey off his back a couple of years ago and got to the Final Four, and I would be pretty happy for him if he's able to win a title. And I do think that's very realistic here.
Marcus, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think floor is probably 4 or 5 seed. I don't really see them not being at the top of the Big Ten. but I guess there is an avenue where they're maybe like the third, fourth best team in the league if things fell wrong. But they're a 1 seed at their ceiling, and they can win it all, I think. So I think it'll be a good season, obviously, for the Boilermakers.
All right, everybody. As always, thanks for listening to the Mainly Hoops podcast.